Alrighty guys, thanks for sticking around for today's end of day webinar. Really busy day on my end today, administrative wise. Switching over the chat room, everything went really smooth. I'm extremely happy with how the new chat room is performing. Obviously, like we mentioned, the mobile alerts are getting pushed through right away. So I've heard really good things about that. If you guys have any other feedback in regards to how you like the new chat room, just post in the general channel and let me know. But I'm loving it. I mean, as far as trade alerts go, pasting screenshots is happening a lot faster. These are pushing through to mobile right away. I've just been really liking it, and it's been easier for me to follow along on what's going on in the chat room when I'm on mobile over lunch. So it's been really, really good so far. Before we talk about today's trades, I owe you guys some contest winners. So last week we had, every week we do a contest for cash prizes, just something fun to do every Friday. Last Friday I had a power outage right at the end of the day, so I wasn't able to draw names that day. So what we're gonna do, guys, is we're going to draw for last week's winners. All of the names that are entered in the contest are based on the entries from last week up until today. So that's all the entries from our Rocket chat room before we switched over. So there's tons of entries in there, lots of chances to win. So we'll get started with that draw. And as I mentioned in the contest channel, we'll piece it out this way. First place is $100 cash, second is $50, third is $25, and fourth is $25. So good luck, guys, and we'll start drawing now for names. $169 entries in there, so lots of possibilities. All right, C Trader number 1 for $100. Congratulations. Let's draw for second place. And this is second place. DB Coop for $50. And we're going to go ahead and draw for third place now. William Sanders, we got you as third place. Congratulations. And last but not least, Santa Trader for fourth place. Alrighty, guys, congratulations. Just fire me a message on Discord, and I'll settle up with you guys after today's daily webinar. So yeah, just while the mic was muted, I was just saying that I really enjoying the new chat room. It's just way more responsive, and I find that the mobile notifications are getting pushed through way faster. So as soon as I'm able to get a trade alert out, it's pretty much instantly, sending it to your phones and your desktops. And of course, like the way we do the alerts is where I'll give the trade idea well ahead of time. It should give you time to check your phones, see where I'm going to be entering, and have time to decide whether it's a trade you want to participate in and know exactly where the risk level is. So really, so far, I'm just extremely happy with how responsive it is. And like I said, I went to lunch today, and I found it way easier just to follow along for the short period of time when I was away from the computer, follow along with what you guys are doing in the day trading channel. So really good stuff, guys, really good. I'm really happy with it so far. But like I said, if you have any particular concerns or questions about it, just post in the general channel. And if you're just joining us for the first time in the lobby, you may only have access to a few of these channels, like the lobby, watch list, brokers, and the stock bot. Just DM me if you're interested in getting access to our live trade alerts, the live day trading stream that you're on now, which I'll be sharing with you guys occasionally as a free user, and the day trading and contest channels, etc. So let's go ahead and break down today's trades, and then we're going to go over some of the watch list ideas for tomorrow. So like I said, guys, really good first day back after a long weekend. We had a few interesting things on the watch list this morning, but the first setup that actually really stood out to me as a quality setup, one that would match our system criteria, and allow us to trade with a very low risk entry point was FCEL. So let's take a look at some of the bigger time frames to start. So with FCEL, one of the things to note is that over the last week or so, we've had a really nice pullback on the daily chart in a big cup. So this is a really bullish sign on the bigger time frames where you have this big sort of cup and handle flag pattern forming. And just on Friday there before the long weekend, it closed just before that breakout area right here. And one thing that was really nice was today, instead of it just ripping off the open, which typically ends up not giving me a trade, because I don't chase weak opens and I don't chase strong opens. I always wait for a clear setup to form with a low risk entry point. So when FCL actually opened weak today, came down and then sort of put a lower high and sort of faked out like it was going to be weak, we became very interested in looking for a reclaim of 257 support to set up our first long signal, which would be a break of 261 long and just risking that 4 cents off of 257 support. Okay, so go back to some of the bigger time frames, like so now I have the daily chart up top. Let's move to an hourly chart. So you'll see that right off the open today, that hourly chart trend that's been holding for the last few days, that was all caught up. So that week open where I hit kind of like that 242 area, or just a little lower, a little higher, that 251, that was really just technically testing towards the bigger time frame trend, which then proved to be holding in that first hour. Take a look at a 15-minute chart. So in pre-market, it dipped under the 15-minute chart trend, held up. First opening candle in the 15-minute chart held the 15-minute chart trend, and the second one broke through. So this is a really clear, very, very simple long signal. Again, the buy signal being this break right there of 261 with risk off the 257 support. The stock reached a high of 295. I actually managed to get sells all the way up to 294 on it. So this is my execution chart. So as usual, guys, we're able to get the trade alert ahead of time. So letting you know that the next break at 261 is going to be a long signal. The risk is actually the 257 support. So the stop is 256. The way that I do it is the 257 area, if I see it starting to break, I see red prints going through it and it looks like it's failing, I'd actually usually just take it out on the bid at 257, which is the break of support. But worst case scenario, you know, if I have to leave the computer, I just put my stop 1 cent below the support, which is 256. One thing I could have done a little better with this trade probably was either a little bit more size would have been good because it was a really tight setup. And this morning was a little bit hectic because we were changing over a lot of people from the old chat room to the new one. So I wasn't fully 100% focused on trading. There was a lot of side distractions, but I traded this one a little bit smaller in share size, especially given the fact that it was only 4 cent risk. I probably could have traded about 3 times the size. But I found that I also was fairly quick with some exits here where, as usual, I'll take some shares off into the first push just to basically eliminate the risk. So if you look at the execution chart here, you'll see a good chunk of my shares were out between 66 and 68. I'd say at least a quarter of my shares were out between 66 and 68, and then another quarter at least between 70 to 72. So the purpose of that is it essentially just eliminates all risk from the trade at that point. So once we've gotten that first push and we've locked in about half of the profits, you know, half of the trade is completely finished. At this point now, it's basically impossible for the trade to turn into a loss. We're just going to trail it. If it continues to hold trend on the 1 minute chart, you can just continue to hold that position and take sells along the way. What I like to do is take sells into the pushes and then let it pull back, let it hold the 1 minute chart trend, sell into a push, pull back, hold the 1 minute chart trend. Of course, at any point, if the stock tests the 1 minute chart trend, puts a lower high, and then breaks the 1 minute chart trend, that'll signal me to sell more shares. So I usually use that as a sell signal. The first major sell signal I got on this one was actually right in here. This was the first point on the chart where the stock had made a full, sorry, not right there, but actually right over here. This is the first point in the chart where it made a full 5 minute chart trend reversal. So since the signal was over here, a bunch of sells up into the first push. We got to pull back. It tested the 5 minute chart trend. From here, if it's going to go higher, we're usually going to get a bit of a bounce off that area, then a higher low, and then a new flag break, which would be a whole new setup and a whole new signal. If the stock ends up testing the 5-minute chart and then puts a lower high and then breaks the base, the bottom, the support, that's usually going to be a sell signal, because we bought this stock on the premise of a 1-minute and 5-minute chart long signal. So once that chart trend is broken, that's sort of a systematic process of trading. There's nothing really to think about. It's a sell because the chart has told us to sell. So FCEL was a really good start to the day. Clear setup. Week open made it really good to get a clear setup and risk level. I got some really good sells near the top, but unfortunately, I just didn't take a whole lot of size on it, so it only resulted in about a $300 win. There was also another opportunity on FCEL. This was around 11 a.m. I didn't get to trade this one because I sort of have a rule where right around 11 a.m. I break for lunch. I don't like to trade over lunch, especially the long side. But it was a nice little setup here where the 15-minute chart had continued to hold the trends. So we see here that since our morning flag, it came back, tested the 15-minute chart trend, that held. It tested it again. It held again. We set up a new flag. You have your 5-minute and 1-minute chart down below here. You can see that it started to find some support over 277. So 283 buyers were able to risk off 277. So this would have been a slightly higher risk than the first trade in terms of how many cents per share you're risking. That would be around 6 cents per share risk. Technically speaking, if you look at that, if you widen the flag line a little bit, you could have, I suppose you could have played it like this and taken the 284 risk 280. But the way I was seeing it was this flag line break right here. So you'd actually be buying this candle right here, and probably risking 278. You don't have to go off the bottom of this candle necessarily. I probably would have used 278, but either way, that would have been a slightly wider risk than the first trade. And also, typically, if you're trading long between like 11:15 to 12:30, the overall win percentage is going to be lower on the trade as well, which is one of the really good reasons why I typically don't go long between 11:30 and 12:30. So most of my long signals are either going to be in the first hour and a half of the day. I'll get long signals and short signals in the late part of the morning. This time of day between, essentially between 11 o'clock to 12:30, this whole time frame right here, this is kind of like lunchtime. Things tend to get more choppy. You'll notice a lot more failed breakouts, false breakouts. I find that time frame you're going to exert a lot of energy mentally that you would rather conserve and be better off just saving for the afternoon session. So best bet is to do what I do. Trade the first opening hour and a half from the bell. Sometimes I'll trade right into 11:30, especially if I have a reversal signal where I'm playing a short into lunch. But I'm really, really stepping off the gas and taking a break between 11:30 to 12:30. So I actually like to just get away from the screens. I'll go take a break, run upstairs, make some lunch. Typically, then the best trades are going to come back in between 12:45 to around 1:30 to 2 p.m. So this is kind of the sweet spot right here where you're going to get the most volume, the most follow through, right? These green areas here, and the area to avoid for the most part, except for under special circumstances, is that red area when we're looking at the time of day. Okay, so between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And yeah, so you'll see that there was an afternoon setup there on the 15-minute chart, flagged to continue, basically a continuation signal, which is this is basically right out of our systematic trading course. So if you're a member of the trading group, if you go into the members portal, go into the video lessons tab, and you'll see our systematic trading course, which is free for all members. It's basically an outline of my entire trading system, from the risk management to the entry points, the setups, how we trail and manage trades, and the mindset of using a systematic process that just completely reduces and eliminates the emotions from your trading. So within this, you will see video lesson number 2 is our 4 main trade setups. Video lesson 3 that's the one that's going to explain the continuation pattern that would have been on FCEL after 11 a.m. So granted, it's not the time of day that I prefer to trade, and I wouldn't have traded it. I did want to put it out there for you guys because it was a good looking setup. So going forward from FCEL, There was one more morning trade today that was a short signal on GMPX. This trade actually reached pretty much did reach all targets for me, so very, very straightforward trade. Right out of our playbook. Video lesson number 2 explains these short setups. So basically what we had on GMPX, and let's just look at it the way that we always look at it when we're live streaming and trading in the morning, is we'll start with a 1-minute chart down below and a 5-minute chart up top. So we have a good view of all the price action that's happening in the stock on 2 different time frames. So this stock to me was pretty much untradeable, I'd say, during the first 15 to 30 minutes of the day. Typically speaking, and today was a bit of an exception because FCEL had a very early setup, but usually when it comes to stuff like this, sort of like small cap stocks that are really, really volatile in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the day, we almost always end up sitting out during this really choppy period and then waiting for the stock to really fully confirm a trend and give us a clear signal across multiple time frames. It can give us a clear entry point and a very tight stop out point to either play a continuation long or a reversal. But I feel like if you trade in the first 10 minutes of the day, and especially this could be helpful to you if you find that you are kind of jumping in both feet first in the very beginning of the day. I noticed a huge difference in my trading, and I've been trading for 14 years now. One of the big differences for me was waiting for a clear signal and a clear setup to form after 10 a.m. And what you'll find is that on most charts, you might get a chart that has a bit of a fake out to the upside in the morning, then the downside, and then it looks like it's going to be a short, and then everyone anticipates a short and starts shorting, but then it holds a higher low, gets over support and flags. So instead of being the guy that buys the open, sells the flush, then shorts the lower high, and then tops out here, you can simply sit back and just wait and see all of that action happening. So you'll know that on the opening push, a lot of people are going to be chasing that long. You want this break for them to sell out. You want those overhead longs to get stuck chasing. They sell into this area here. You want shorts to short the lower high under VWAP. They're anticipating a breakdown. Again, they're in before a clear signal's formed, so they're getting themselves involved in the trade before it actually has a chance to formulate. And then finally, once it comes up here, holds a higher low, shorts are now on the wrong side of the trade. Overhead longs are mostly sold out down here. And then you can go ahead and take a clear buy signal with a defined risk level. In this case, 135 long would be the setup, risking 125, risking 10 cents, and you're usually going to get around an 80% win rate in that kind of trade. So why do anything else when you have a proven setup that's going to work over and over and over again? So for more details and intricate detail on that kind of setup, again, video lesson 2 on the free course for members, you can get more about that. What I found with GMPX today was it was really not tradable in the first hour of the day because of all the halts. So there was a lot of volatility halts. You can see right here was the first volatility halt when it had that big pull down. And then it kind of curled here, and I did actually like that. Looked pretty good for sort of as a long setup. You can see the 5-minute chart was actually holding trend nicely in there. So if I had to pick a spot for long, it would have been here. But I didn't end up playing it long. I let that go. It squeezed out through highs. I didn't see any way that was really, really favorable to play the short side anywhere in this area here. So the first setup that I got, and the one that I alerted in chat for us, was the first 15-minute chart reversal signal, which was the break of 137. So let's go into the chat room here, and as you can see, the alert I put out was at 1:17 a.m., 11:17 a.m., which was right here. So it was right about 10 minutes before the trade triggered. So anyone that was on mobile would have got a push notification to their mobile phone letting them know that the break of 137 is a short signal. For those of you that are members of our group, you know exactly where your stop should be based on that setup. And the target was going to be towards the bigger time frame, the hourly chart trend, which is in the low ones. So that one got out. What I did with this one, guys, is I actually used a market stop order to enter this trade. I had to leave for lunch. I had an errand that I needed to run, so I couldn't stick around through the chop. So I just put a stop. The way to do that is, and I don't necessarily recommend doing this, but in a pinch, You know, if you're really sure you want to be in on a trade and you don't want to miss it. I used a stop market order to enter the trade. And the way I did that was I just essentially used the type of orders market, and the price that triggered was for 137. Obviously, when using a bigger order, like a 5,000 share order, there's a huge chance that if you're using a market order, you might end up getting some slippage and shorting way lower than you want to. For the reason that I wasn't able to be at my desk, I didn't trade nearly as much size as I would have if I had been at my desk. So I just played it safe with a smaller position. When I was on mobile, the trade triggered and I was able to cover part of my shares at 127 before the halt. And then you can see it came back and retested towards just above our entry, but it wound up putting a lower high in. So what I did was, after we saw the 43s print, I went ahead and moved my stop to 144. So this way now we had another clear exit point. If you covered enough from the first wash, you know, from 137 to 127, then you could, even if you stopped out over 143, you could still have a small win or near a break-even trade. But I only covered about a fifth or a quarter of my shares into 127. So this actually would have resulted in a loss for me if it had came back and took me out over, I was using 148 as a stop on that. So I came back and put a lower high. And then it just continued to chop around a little bit. I'm just going to go back to a 5-minute chart up top here for you guys. And I was thinking that once it broke that bottom through 134, we should be okay with this one right over here through 134, and it should just fizzle out. So after that break of 134, I put out some cover orders in the mid to low 20s. I put some ideas out there just to give you guys some thoughts on where I think you should be setting stops or exiting, and just as much detail as I possibly could. For those of you who are only in chat, if you were on the live stream, you would have gotten a lot more detail than that. But yeah, cover at 129, 128 was a good spot right in here. That was at 12:26 p.m. when that flushed in here. And then I decided from there that if we ended up with a flag, so sort of a flag break over 135 in this area, I was going to cover down to about half of my shares. This is just a method of basically preserving my win, keeping the trade green, and you know, playing it smart instead of greedy. The chances are 80% of the time this type of setup and trade is going to reach our final target, which at this point was 104, 105 area. But I still like to put myself in a position where I'm taking profits along the way, reducing my risk, and avoiding situations where I'm going to get stuck in a situation like if it pops really quickly, then I'm going to get stuck with too many shares and end up having to exit for a loss. So the plan here was, you know, I'd taken a cover at 29 over here, and I took another cover here. If it had flagged through 35, I was just going to reduce the position. That way, if it took me out through 43, I'd still take a small win out of it. But it didn't end up flagging, so what I did was I put some cover orders down below, and I figured that on the break of 126, which was a low after the flush down here, we would see a lot of stops, a lot of long stopping out, and that should give us a good some good fills in the low 20s. So I just threw some cover orders down out there at 122 to 124, and instantly in that flush, right away I got filled down to 2,000 shares. I put some commentary out there on FCEL just in case anyone was still trailing it. There was still a very strong trend, and no reason for longs to sell pretty much all day until a break of 286, which you see here, it never actually broke 286. So longs really never had any reason to sell, and shorts never had any reason to be in this one today. But I'll talk a little bit more about my thoughts on how I'm going to trade that one tomorrow. The best fill I got on this one, I got some at 118, and I think I got a couple in the low 112 area. I posted my execution chart in the day trading channel if you want to see it. So that was GMPX. It was a good short signal. Again, a little bit smaller on size, but just under $600 on GMPX and just around 300 in FCEL for the morning. And the afternoon was slower for me. I actually missed one really good trade that I want to go over with you guys. That was actually on NVAX. This one is actually very reminiscent of exactly a setup out of our free trading course. So For those of you who are members of our trading group, okay, video lesson number 2 are 4 main trade setups. This would be, I think this is the second or fourth. You'll see it. It's the afternoon long setup. Huge win rate on this one. I didn't notice that the bigger time frames were caught up the way they were on it. So I wasn't actually paying that much attention to it. I was looking at it in this area here, and I was paying some attention to, this wouldn't have been a valid buy signal or a flag for me right here in this area. And you can see that some people probably did play that flag, and some of them may have gotten stopped out somewhere down there. But I'm not going to go into the deep details in this one since we have some free users with us today. But for those of you that know the setup, that know our system, you'd know that this right here, right where that circle is a valid long signal across multiple time frames. It matches our system for an afternoon long. It would have been an 875 trigger, risk 850. So you can see the risk reward ratio turns out pretty good on a trade like this, where the red area represents, you know, the buy trigger here to the stop point here, and the green area will represent the profit. So this one actually could have been quite good. And usually with a trade like this, we're aiming for a break of highs and then just continue trailing the stock as long as it's continuing to trend. So NVAX actually was a really good setup for the afternoon. Unfortunately, I got caught. I traded a couple of sort of lousier, less exciting setups. I think MNK is the one that I shorted. MNK had a 15, I think it was a 15-minute chart short signal on the break of 605 with a 7-cent risk off 612. But once it broke, I felt like the volume just wasn't there. So it broke 605. I ended up shorting it. I think right away I decided to move my stop to 612. I had cover orders at 99, 97, and 98. I was really just looking for it to get to VWAP, and then I was just going to trail it in case it could reach the bigger time frame target. However, it ended up putting a lower high. It looked like a lower high, so if it stayed a lower high, I would have just held that position and then covered us out down here. But since it reclaimed the entry point and held a higher low, that was a clear sign to exit. So I just took the rest of that out and break even. Ended up being pretty much nothing. Small trade for 50 bucks or something like that, but always better than a loss. So I think we handled that one well. It just didn't really have much follow through. And OMI I did not end up trading. It did have a 640 break, but it wasn't, the context wasn't really that good for a short. It was only up like 16% of the day, and some of the bigger time frames were caught up on it. So I didn't end up trading that one either. So that was just it for me today. It was just the 3 trades. The NVAX trade obviously would have made a huge difference in my day, but considering how busy I was today with the administrative work and getting everyone sort of switched over from the old chat room to the new chat room, I'm pretty happy with how I traded today. And some of you guys seem like you traded really well in chat, so congratulations. Once again, congratulations to the winners of our weekly cash prize contests. All you need to do is DM me and I'll PayPal you the cash prize draw. For those of you who are with us, we'll be drawing on Friday again for the same prizes, but with all the names from our new contest channel in our Discord server. So again, guys, I want to welcome you all to the new chat room. Again, I think it's just miles ahead of the other one in terms of responsiveness. It's a huge leg up for those of you that are trading on mobile, especially where we're giving the alerts ahead of time. It just gives you plenty of time just to get the idea, take a look at the chart, decide if it's a trade you want to join me on or not. No surprises, and the notifications to your phone are instant. So that's always great. We're still live streaming as usual through Zoom. So once in the day trading channel, you can just view the pinned message to get this the daily live stream link, which actually changes each day, and our watch list for the day. And as always, guys, all of our end-of-day recaps, including this one, are recorded and posted in the video lesson section of the members portal for members of our trading group to review on your spare time. There's over 500 in there, as well as the systematic trading course. So guys, before I let you go, I want to go over the watch list for tomorrow, at least some of the main things I'll be watching. So starting with GNPX, this one's reached all of our short targets for the day, so we're probably not going to be interested in this one tomorrow unless it gets back over 130 and sets up a multi-day flag. Otherwise, there is some room on the daily chart for potentially for a gap fill. So I think I'll keep it on watch for one more day. If it was going to set up for a short tomorrow, I would first want a correction and then followed by a lower high and then a break of support. So GMPX, I'll keep it on watch tomorrow. If I get a signal, I'll walk you guys through it live as usual. Keep that one up over 104, and we'd like I said, we'd like to see a little bit of a bounce correction. Otherwise, if it gets back over 130, the resistance from today, and holds a higher low, we'll look for a multi-day flag and play more of a long bias signal on that. So I'm open to both sides on it. NVAX, wasn't a really nice follow through. This just looks like it's going to close on highs. There's been no reason to be shorted today. Clear trend hold on all time frames. Nice continuation on the 15-minute chart. Big daily chart push today. So the way we'll play this one tomorrow is the same way we played most A2 plays. We'll wait for correction on the bigger time frame. If it winds up holding a higher low, we can look for multi-day flag continuation plays. Otherwise, we can look for a reversal signal on the bigger time frame. So I'll walk you guys through that one if we get a setup. I don't see anything wrong with keeping a few shares on over into after hours, as long as it's holding that 5-minute chart trend. But just be aware that it's starting to get a little extended on some of the bigger time frames. So once that 5-minute chart trend breaks, you might see a bit of a harsher pullback. For me, I'm kind of hoping that if this one sets up tomorrow, I'd like to see it sort of close around where it is today, and then wait for a pullback and look for a nice big cup and handle sort of long setup. So NVAX is a great watch for tomorrow, along with GNPX. MNK, a little bit less excited about that one, just because it was a little lower on volume today, and it didn't really get exciting. It's got a bigger float, a little bit of a push up on the daily chart over the last week. Not a whole lot of room for a short, so it's not really interesting in the short side. I think I'm just going to put this one on the back burner for a while. You could keep an eye on it for continuation plays, multi-time frame flags, continuation play in the bigger time frame. But overall, I find this one to be a little less interesting. If you're going to look for a long, you might want to look for something like that tomorrow. But otherwise, you could look for a reversal signal maybe through that $6 area. But I don't really see the daily chart as a very interesting chart for short. It's got some room for a pullback, but nothing amazing. I'll keep it on the watch list. I'm just going to put a marker at today's support around 595. I think we'll find something a little more interesting tomorrow to trade than that. Sort of the same boat with OMI. It had a big daily chart push today. This was a daily chart breakout from Thursday's high of 584. Friday had a bit of a pullback. Today, gapped up and pushed through. I'm probably going to be less interested in this one tomorrow, but all the same usual setups we'll be looking for. So I'll let you guys know if anything comes along on that OMI. 635 is acting as support for now. Didn't do anything with APT today. Big daily chart candle, pretty good volume. Just kind of choppy this afternoon. Some of the bigger time frames are catching up on it. I'm going to keep this on watch for one more day. Keep it on watch for tomorrow, just in case it lines anything up. For now, I'll put a marker at that 475 support, and I'll walk you guys through it if any trades come along on that worth taking. NNDC was a bit of a nutty one today. I didn't end up taking a borrow or doing anything with it. There were too many easy trades out there to mess with this thing. In hindsight, I didn't have any valid short signal on this one in the afternoon. No valid short signal, so there's no loss on this one to me for not having traded it. This 5-minute chart flag was not a valid long signal for me, so I wouldn't have traded that. And it's still got some room to retest the bigger time frame, so I will keep it on watch for one more day, just in case we get some action on it tomorrow. Won't really be much interest in the long side on this one unless it gets back over 1050 and sets up a multi-day flag. So we'll come back to that one in the morning. I had a few other small things that I was watching last week and this morning that never really set up for us. So I'll start removing some less interesting charts. Let's see, TROV was, again, one that a little less interesting. This one needs back over 170 to start looking good again. It's closing really weak, so I just don't really think that one's really of much interest to us at this point. What I do with these ones is I'll put a price alert in. I can put it in for a month. Just put a marker at like 172 on it. That way I'll get a little jingle on my desktop if something comes along. Otherwise, I don't need to take enough screen space, so I'll just remove that from the watch list. JAGX, kind of another one like that. This one had a decent daily chart. Today was sort of the way I see it. This one was like a daily chart breakout, a good chart for swing trades. You know, I could see swing trade longs buying that 85 break, risking 77, 7 cent per share risk. They got to move up to 105. Most of them got their 2 to 3 hours, so we got some sellers into the close today. The next thing I'd be looking for is a bigger flag on this one. So I'm not really interested in this one again until 90 becomes new support. And if 90 does become new support, then we may see a multi-day flag form over the next like week or two. It could even be a month or so. So this one's got a ways to go before it's going to be interesting again. So put that one in the back burner. Again, it's one that you may not want on your watch list taking up screen space until it sets up again. So I might just put a price alert there at like 101. And again, it'll send me a jingle or an email when it gets back to my price. That's going to put it back on my watch list. By the way, that's using TC2000. That's the name of the charting program I'm using here. I'll post a little bit about that in the brokers channel for those of you that are joining us in the lobby today and would like to get some details on that. But I really like it. It's a really great charting program. And I prefer it over most any charting software that comes with a trading platform. So anyways, moving forward to JAGS, we had FCEL. That's definitely a good watch for tomorrow again, for sure. We'll be looking for a day 2 play on that one, long or short, just depends on which way it sets up. AEMD, this one needs to get back. So today we had a decent sized pullback. That daily chart's got some catching up to do. Eventually, if this got back over 250, this is another one that I'll use my chart to alert me if it gets back over 250 for a multi-day flag setup. Otherwise, total back burner. Something I'll be watching like down the road. VIVE is just fizzling out today, so probably not going to be that interested in it tomorrow. There's not really enough room for a daily chart gap fill to keep me focused on it. A lot of these other ones are just back watches. OMI, Sava. This one could have some potential for a daily chart flag break. A daily chart flag break for swing trades. So the purpose of this swing trading channel is, I'll put out ideas on bigger time frame charts for those of you that can't be at the desk all day. So a setup on this one potentially could be look for a break of this prior, like this 807 area with risk off 783. So if the flag break comes in tomorrow like this. And one thing I like to do for all of our members, and especially when we're live streaming during the day in chat, is if there is a setup, I'll draw what I'm looking for before the trade happens, just to give a clear indication, where the support is on the stock and where the trigger point would be to buy. It's kind of funny because as I'm saying this, you can see a red candle coming in, so this may or may not trigger. Even still, if it comes back over 780, holds a higher low than flags 807, I still like it. So that one's worth a watch. Just throughout the week, actually I think the only reason we got that red candle is because the market just closed and the spreads opened up. So you can see where the exact trigger points can be pinpointed. All right, so I think we covered a lot of ground today. I will put together a more detailed watch list once I get to go through everything tonight. I know there's a few things I want to add to that list that I haven't seen yet. But for those of you who are just joining us for the first time in the lobby, I'm going to occasionally, I'll post watch lists that you guys can follow. Occasionally I might post ahead of time trade alert, but generally speaking, you're going to want to become a premium member if you want to get access to like the premium trade alerts. But occasionally I might throw a bone out there, and like, you know, occasionally a live stream like this. I might pick a day or two per month that I'll just let you guys follow along on the live stream. But yeah, as soon as you upgrade from a free member to a paid member, it'll open up all these channels to you guys, where especially the Trade Alerts channel, where you can get my live trades ahead of time, where we run an 80% win rate month over month. So I'm really happy to be up and running on the new chat room. I'm glad a lot of you guys were able to stick around into the close today. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always available. And other than that, we'll catch you guys first thing tomorrow morning on the live stream. All right, guys, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.